I think we've got time for maybe one more question, and then we might throw it open to you guys in a minute. So I was going to ask, what advice do you wish you'd gotten when you first started out in editing? And is there any one piece of advice you'd like to give all the newer editors here today?
I think, and I still feel it today, because I didn't go to film school and stuff. I fell into it a little bit. I knew how to use Avid stuff, but I fell into drama editing because I just got a job feeding tapes into a machine. So I wasn't, I never really set out to do it. So the one thing for me is, I always felt there was some kind of voodoo, and you talk about instinct all the time, and for me, yes, you have taste, but instinct is learned behaviour. That's the whole 10,000 hours thing, that it's experience that gives you those instincts. You don't have it, you're not born with it, you get it from doing it. And so that was the big one for me, that people kept talking about instinct and all of this stuff. What is this? I don't know. And then people kept kind of liking what I was doing. So I thought, and I still have a bit of that in me now. So that'd be the one thing. It's like, yeah, don't listen to like it's some voodoo. It's hard work.
Yeah, I would say as well, try your hand at everything. Don't limit yourself to, trying to just do drama editing, do documentary, do animations, do everything, because anything you can do is, as Tim said, it'll give you practice, and you'll just keep on making stuff and finding new things that interest you and resonate with other people when they see them.
Chris Gill told me a good story actually, which was a year to the day he worked at before. He was editing 28 days later. He was editing Songs of Praise. he said to me, "You can learn something from everything." I always wanted to see that edition of Songs of Praise.
It is a natural progression.
It's going to make sense. But yeah, I mean, I feel the same. It's just get out there and do it. Really, it's kind of like. And the really lovely thing is you I think when you start out, you worry about your body of work, or you've only done 2 little scenes or something. And actually what's lovely is people judge you on your best work, not your worst work. So it's better just to get out there and do, if you're into editing, get out there and do it, and then very quickly you kind of have some stuff which isn't too bad, and then it evolves quite quickly after that.
Yeah, I mean, like Tim, I sort of fell into editing by accident, and I think, what was interesting about the demonstration before is like for $900 you get this bit of kit that is pretty impressive.
And
so
free as well.
Yeah. So I think now with all the various competing bits of software out there, there's sort of no excuse. You can go and shoot films on your phone and cut them together. So I think that's how you learn. It's like anything, really. You learn by mistakes, but it's actually only by doing it you realise, okay, next time I need to make sure that I got those shots, or I do it in that order. So I think it's just about doing it, going out and doing it. And the great thing about the kit that's available now is that you've got access to it, which is fantastic, really.
And the only other thing on a practical level, I would say, because I was just looking at some different short films that students were doing, you don't have to use every shot of a shot. You just use what works for you, or what you think tells the story best, and just play.
It's like what you were saying, half the trick is knowing when not to edit, as opposed to just because you've got all these shots you want to use them. Unless you're cutting Game of Thrones.
Yeah, but then use everything.
Twice. Yeah. or a horse.
I always find the internet I just have to just watch stuff as well. Just remember to go and be an audience member and just watch as much TV and film, and that helps.
That's I'll get off that. One of the questions I get asked a lot is, when you watch stuff, or films or TV, do you watch it as an editor? And I say, I never do. You just.
Well, I think when we've been editing together, when we were doing Veep, I'd come and watch your episodes when you were halfway through a cut.
Did you now?
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, yeah. But I never sat there as an editor. I was just a fan of the show. Sat on your sofa, which is cool. So I think we've got time for maybe 2 or 3 questions. So there's a mic going round. So if anyone has a question, stick your hand up, and I'll see if I'll pick the interesting faces in the crowd. There's a nice young lady down here in a stripy top. There's a microphone coming to you from over there.
Hi, I just wanted to kind of ask everybody, what you would recommend if you wanted to move into narrative editing, to do more storytelling basically, because I'm sure like a lot of us kind of start in slightly smaller things. For instance, like I'm going to do film marketing, for example, but I want to move into like longer form editing like yourselves. What's your tip for editors wanting to move into that? Is it assisting, or is it just, what do you recommend really?
Good question. Anyone?
I think you've probably answered your own question there. I mean, especially the role of the assistant now is so important, so crucial. I mean, they do things that make us look so much better than we are. I mean, it's quite a technical role, and they do stuff that I don't know about. But I think it's such a good introduction, because I mean, I've just finished a film where there's lots of viral material that obviously doesn't make it into the film, but I'm more than happy for the assistant to hand it across to her, and then she had a whole wealth of experience. She cut about 15 virals that will go out there on the internet as part of the features marketing, and that's sort of invaluable experience for her, and I just think that's the way forward really. So I'd say pick the area that you're interested in, the kind of films or the shows that you like or you like to work on, and just try and get in there and become an assistant. That's such a good way in. So that's
I'd say on that, the assistants I have know the Avid better than I do, and they have tricks that I just don't know, and I really rely on them. And when they're good, that allows me to trust them and give them give them a chance to edit.
And the thing is that if you do go into assisting, I think Gary's right. Don't get bogged down by doing all the technical stuff. If there are opportunities to do the recaps or teasers or even the party trailer, do them, grab them and do them, because I'm sure she won't mind me saying, but Danielle Palmer, who's now brilliant editor, she's just finished Ripper Street, she's doing other stuff, but she did one of the episodes of The Missing. She was an assistant for me 8 years ago, and when she did her recaps and teasers, I thought they were brilliant, and so we always stayed in contact, and I knew she was getting into assembly, and that's how she came with us on The Missing. So it's really important to be verbal and let your editor know that you actually are interested, because a lot of assistants, if you just keep doing the technical stuff, you might feel years passing and you're just stuck, exporting. So be verbal and say, if there's a scene that, even if they've cut the scene and you want to just practice with the scene, I think most people would be very open to saying, yeah, take the rushes, and they'll give you some feedback.
Cool. I think we've got time for just one more question. If anyone has anything. Lovely looking chap down the front here.
I was just curious to see. Sorry, I was just curious to see how you treat the writing, and how you'd, whether you're brutal with the writing, whether you kind of engage with the writer, and whether you're sort of precious about the script, or whether you kind of just rip it up and try and rearrange it and tell the story a different way, and see if that's going to get you more out of it. How much you experiment with that.
I think it's about respecting the script, about trying to really get inside it and capture the spirit of it. And the deeper you can go and the more understanding you get of it, then you feel a bit more confident to play with it. You can definitely, you don't want to mess it up and lose the spirit of it, or the kind of story and the narrative. But as you kind of get more familiar with the material, then you feel a bit more confident about, oh, actually, that would preserve the spirit of the piece if we actually that moved that scene over there. And you just have to be kind of delicate about what you do, so you don't mess with the writer's ideas, but you kind of equally then feel confident about, actually maybe that will work better in there, and you get inside that process and try stuff, and hopefully don't mess it up too much. Basically,
it's a great question, because a lot of people I've worked with who are writer performers who are sitting in the edit suite, there's an awful lot of similarity between the writing process and the editing process, and often depending on what the show is, I mean, Veep or The Thicket, for example, the script isn't sacrosanct because they've written it way too long, and they know that, and so you go through similar kind of work processes and thought processes, and I think they sort of enjoy that, rewriting in the edit, but I think it varies according to a project. I mean, like Mark says, if someone spent 8 months writing the script, you don't want to come in and say, no, that seems better off over there, and start throwing it all out, because that would just be rude. But you know, sometimes it's small nuanced things, and other times, you know, there's other major thoughts that can be quite liberating, because, you know, if you start moving things around, sometimes it can work, but I think it's dependent on what the project is, really.
And a lot of writers are execs, and they can be even more ruthless with their own script, and yes, it's a good conversation, and they might even remember an earlier draft that they had something that actually is like a eureka moment in the cutting room. You're like, oh, that makes, if they say, I only wrote that scene at the very last minute, you're thinking, no wonder I can't get it to fit in here.
It doesn't work.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, I think that's about all the time we have for. Yeah. So we can go get a cup of tea. These guys have been promised booze, so please give a huge round of applause to Tim Porter AC, Ian Newton, Mark Eckersley, and Gary Dolner AC. Thank you.